overall, I kind of dig it, but it could be.
Son, what are you watching there?
Well, Dad, it's Larry Arts Productions, home to many types of content, including stop motions, reviews, unboxings, and other types of videos.
I knew getting the internet for my kid was a mistake.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on a Monday night evening. Welcome to the ISRC Race Car Graveyard Truck Series. It's the final push. Who will make the playoffs? Well, next, that of just 3 tracks, including tonight, will set the stage for 16 drivers that will head into the playoffs. And tonight, one of the last opportunities to run in the road course, and going to be our second time in Japan. The drivers try to attempt a little bit of an under 3-mile course of the Fuji Grand Prix without the chicane. With tonight's race, it is excitement in the air for these drivers as they're going to be having 2 tracks in a row that some have never touched before. Last week at Port Royal, a lot of discussion, a little bit of controversy, but the win will stand for that of Mark Whitley, and as well, no other drivers come away with penalties out of a very controversial night last week. But tonight, drivers get a handful. They're still trying to figure it out as we're underway with qualifying currently. Can't wait to talk more about it. For myself, Sam Dyer, joining me is going to be Zach Hall. Zach, tonight certainly should be a fun one as we're back in Japan for some road course racing.
Super excited for this, Sam. Fuji Speedway is a very fantastic facility overall, just a great circuit. And with the 16 turns here tonight, these drivers are going to have a difficult time trying to navigate because, again, this is new to everybody. This is the first broadcast we've ever had here, first time they've ever raced here. But they've, produced such good road course races in the past here at ISRC that I'm excited to see how this one plays out. I mean, we got plenty of different action going down this track. Gives a lot of opportunities for drivers to make mistakes. And I love when mistakes happen on road courses because that's when you see the passing opportunities open up.
I mean, talking about some of those past great runs we've had at road courses, I mean, even this season, back at Watkins Glen, we got to see Cody Reed get himself his first ever win in the ISRC Truck Series. But there also were some great passes at that time, some 3-wide moves. Who is going to be willing to be risky, as well as a little bit of lap traffic that got in the way of some of our leaders battling for a win? Could those be the tactics that have to be used to get themselves in a victory lane? Like we said, drivers underway with qualifying at this current moment. Some drivers about to be clocking in their first lap, others getting into their warm-up lap to start their first lap. And Zach, let's get into this track. Again, a little bit under 3 miles of a course. Like I said, 16 corners. It certainly should be a handful as we're right now watching the 16 of going to be Joshua Kanata. And Kanata's been looking like one of the faster top 5, top 10 drivers based off of practice. And he's hoping to be close to the top of the board here as he's getting done with his first lap.
Getting done with the first lap, and this is the toughest part of the track. This third sector is super windy, slow speed, and it's a lot of braking while you're turning the wheel, and that's what makes it the toughest thing, folks. When you get to brake in a straight line, these trucks work much better at slowing down the truck. But as soon as you have to turn on that wheel and hit the brake, it either wants to step out or lock up a tire. So you're dealing with 2 different syndromes there that you're trying to just nurse through that last sector. And I think that's where you're going to see where the difference is made between drivers out there tonight as you head down this long straightaway too. I mean, it is the longest straightaway I think they're going to get the experience on a road course race here at Fuji. As it goes down into this downhill turn 1 corners, it falls away there at the apex. It makes it a very interesting part of the sector. And then in the sector 2, you got these high speed corners that really you have to really carry speed and momentum, but not carry too much and send yourself off the racing surface because it would be danger very quickly.
It really could be danger very quickly. Currently in those first laps that are being clocked in, Trenton Jump besting his practice time. Not the fastest during practice. That title goes to Danny Cochran, but the 46 currently topping the board with a 1 minute and 41 second .721 time, which is one of the fastest times we've seen all throughout practice and into tonight's session. Danny Cochran, like we said, the fastest driver to watch out for, but he is 3rd quickest at this time. Zach, some drivers attempting a second lap, some deciding not. Is that a good call for those drivers that are deciding not to put in their 3rd lap for themselves?
I think the decision there mostly is just how much fall off there's going to be. I mean, these trucks, you get the best speed out of the tires when they're at their coolest, actually. They don't have dynamic brakes where the brakes heat up. They just automatically work straight out the get-go, and you want to have as least heat build up in those tires so you can have as much grip as possible. It's kind of the complete opposite of what we see with the next gen Cup Series car. That car loves heat. It's all about building up the momentum and continuing to build up those temperatures. This thing is just the fastest. It's going to be right straight out the gate, and I think that's why you're not seeing a few guys attempt that third lap there to see if they can find speed on that next one. So I'm not too surprised by that, but if you had a bad first lap, you're going to try to go and see if you can pick up something to maybe fix those mistakes. As we see Thornock there in the 20 machine, he's off track and having a few little mistakes there for himself. So it's just showing how easy it is to make those mistakes, and we'll see them prevalent through all out the night there as he does that out the final corner also.
I think Jesse Thornock, as well as a couple of other drivers, today might be some of their drivers' first days ever touching this course. I was hearing reports that a GT Rosari, he had gotten the track, just purchased it 2 hours before the session for the race to even pop up. So a lot of drivers going to be learning a lot throughout tonight's race, as these drivers were given a total of 10 minutes of qualifying time to put into, they were only given 2 laps to put in their best time for themselves. And currently we've got 3 minutes and 40 seconds left in qualifying. Still a good selection of drivers that look to be not even planning on attempting a time. But like we saw there from Jesse Thornock, going off track can invalidate your lap times of the 20 machine. Got to be careful, and if you do mistakes like that, that will also throw away your time. As the 20 showing one of the more difficult parts of this track at that corner number 3. And that is going to be another spot, Zach, where the elevation change that we were kind of seeing from these drivers, that is going to be another factor to touch on as the more wear and tear gets built up. Not a usual thing you see here in those first couple of laps, though.
Definitely a factor that's going to be huge. As he slides again there, trying to hold on to that machine, and it just shows you in that last sector, it's so tough. There's elevation change. There's high speed portions of the track that you got to carry speed and brake, like I was speaking about earlier, and it just makes those things that much more tough as we check out Mark Whitley. But the one thing I did notice while these times have been clicking through, Nick Crawford was able to go faster actually on his second lap of the qualifying, and that is super impressive. He got super close to beating Trenton Jump, only 52 thousandths of a second separating those top 2, but just not enough to get the pole position. But I think that shows good sign for that number 74 machine for this race.
That it does, as we look at the driver that's leading the points and leading in wins coming into the season, tied with that of John Forbes with 2 wins for himself. Mark Whitley coming off his Port Royal Dirt Racing win last week, the 77, looking for something a little bit more consistent here tonight. Doesn't seem to be one of the fastest drivers coming in based off of road course speed, which Mark Whitley can have those good, brilliant runs, but that's more at the traditional road courses that we go to. Fuji, a completely different beast that we're going to be seeing these drivers have to tackle. Not a track that you usually take the trucks to, if ever, in any other, in real life wise. And even virtual wise, don't see very many leagues taking these vehicles to this track. And Zach, I think that's one of the more fun things about iRacing. It allows these type of combinations to be viable, even if leagues want to try it out.
You're exactly right, Sam. It is something that is an amazing sight to see when you come to iRacing, where we have so many different styles of racing and so many tracks from all over the world that it gives opportunities like leagues like ISRC to go out there and find a track that isn't utilized in a stock car usually and go out there and try it. And I really am a fan of this track. When it first came out, it was actually a very new track to the service here on iRacing. When it first got on the sim, I had to get it because I knew how legendary this track is, being the Fuji Speedway, and it does not disappoint, let me tell you that much. It's definitely very, very fun to put laps down, and these drivers are going to have to master. As you see Mark Whitley sliding out of the final corner, this isn't another qualifying lap for him. It looks like the first one he got an incident, so he couldn't complete it for the first lap, and then he finally did get that second lap in, which has him 11th on the board here, as they got 40 seconds left here, Sam. But at the moment, we got a stout leaderboard with some drivers looking for some strong finishes here at Fuji.
Well, if you got to see the amazing race at Watkins Glen that was earlier in the season for race number 4, it was a great one. And a lot of the drivers that are topping the board here tonight were the ones that were battling around one another that whole entire race at Watkins Glen. We'll see if it's going to stay that way coming into tonight's venue, because a lot of talking points have come in. Turn 1, turn 3, the early aspects of this track where we could be seeing some calamity immediately on the start of this race. Drivers aren't sure if they're going to survive or not, but qualifying comes to a close, which means it's time for us to get ready to look at these qualifying results here tonight. Big thanks to that of Race Car Graveyard here this evening, being the title sponsor of the ISRC Truck Series. If you want to go get yourself collected in diecast from 1/24th ratios to 1/64th ratios, go on over to that Race Car Graveyard today. Go get things that are available, new, used, or even custom diecast. You can get them at Instagram at Race Car Graveyard and use the discount code RCGY today for 10% off. As we take a look at our starting results, taking the top of the board, it's going to be that of Trenton Jump, the 46. Nick Crawford, this whole entire week, talked about how fast this 74 can be. Can he finish up top? We'll find out here tonight. He'll be in second place. Danny Cochran going to be in third. Logan Breaking, what a qualifying time for that 29 machine, going to be fourth. Fifth is Cody Reed. Christopher Norris going to be in sixth. Eric Stamp, a great time for the 53. He'll be seventh, with Ethan Smith, Joshua Kanata, and Malik Kuntz going to be starting out our top 10.
In the 11th position is last week's winner in the 77, Mark Whitley. 12th is going to go to the 5, Dakota Moniz. 13th is going to be the 4 machine of Jordan Smeets. Ryan Ferraro going to start in the 14th position. 15th is going to be John Forbes. 16th is the 14 of GT Irizarry. 17th is going to be the 24 of Ali Fonseca, with Kyle Rochelle starting in 18th. 19th is going to be Martin Morales, and rounding out the top 20, it's Kyle B. Tate, the 43.
And in 21st position is going to be the 12th machine of Ryan Crowfoot, with Matt Upbrook going to be in 22nd position. John McAdams going to be in that in 23rd for the 47 machine. Tyler Dangler going to be not putting in a time back in 24th, with Justin Smith in 25th. 26th is going to be Joshua Freed, Tyler Horn, Jesse Thornock not able to get a time in as well. That's going to be 28 trucks expected to race here tonight, as they are ramped up and ready to go at the Fuji Grand Prix, presented by that of Saccity Diecast, as the driver is currently sitting in that turn number 10, waiting to get themselves rolling. Zach, tonight's race, 40 laps in total. Stage break, there will not be a full course yellow thrown, but the stage break will be at lap 15, allowing the top 10 drivers at the end of that lap to get bonus points. No fast repairs, 4 extra sets of tires. Man, it's just looking like it's gonna be a fun race to watch. Man, I'm excited for it as they're rolling and getting ready for the green.
I'm in the same feeling there, Sam. I tell you, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because we've never seen the stock cars race around here. We don't know what to expect, but I do expect always a classic one. In the 7 other road courses they've had here at ISRC, there's only one 2-time winner in those road courses, and that's Danny Cochran, who's starting third. We'll see if he can get a 3rd win in the road courses here in his career here tonight. But who could we see? Maybe even Trenton Jump get his 2nd, or Nick Crawford break in, and he's been close many times before.
Logan Breakey, Cody Reed, 4th and 5th. Both of them got their first ever wins in the ISRC Truck Series this season. Will they crack in to getting their 2nd ever in this Truck Series? Time to find out. Pace car's about to make that hard right-hander to pit road, and drivers are set to run here in Japan. Trent Jump, Nick Crawford, they have been settling in, trying to find their good runs to prepare for the playoffs. Counting tonight, just 3 more races before they get into the hard battles to battle for a championship. But it is time for that of Trenton Jump, Nick Crawford. They are roaring, ready. Pace car is into pit road, and they are about to enter the green flag zone for the Fuji Grand Prix, presented by Saccity Diecast. They're waiting for the official green. It's out, and let's get roaring here in Japan as the drivers head down into turn number 1. The better watch going to go to that Nick Crawford, but the braking zone going to be quick as drivers trying to whoa up and not take each other out. They're going to be 4 wide, battling for that at 6th place, but up front they're going to be side by side. Trenton Jump's going to survive. The rest of the field's trying to hold up. They're sliding and wrecking. Calamity going to be with Logan Breakey, Cody Reed, and as well going to be seeing that of Eric Stamp, trying to get themselves moving forward. Logan Breakey going to get the worst of it. Up front still going to be Trenton Jump. Nick Crawford going to be making it through that at turn 3, and just like that, already some early calamity here, Zach.
2 armadillos there taken out right there in that initial start. Tough break for that team, as their teammate is still leading the way. But a very interesting turn 1. I had a few drivers tell me they thought turn 1 was going to be calamity on the start, and it definitely played out that way. So we'll see how it shakes out here, with a few drivers having to make recovery drives, because no cautions here to get back from any type of incident. You're going to have to make it up with true speed.
And luckily there's plenty of runoff space, so drivers make mistakes in the middle of this racetrack. They got time to get out of the way, but Cody Reed finding issues here in lap number 1. He goes off track, trying to get it circled back around, but from 7th and now all the way down to almost last place is the 25. And Zach, that's already about 6 drivers that have had some major issues that have lost a lot of ground.
Just shows you, Sam, if you dip a tire off into the grass, you can go around in a heartbeat's notice, and that's what happened to the 25. Just dipped the tire off the curb into the grass, lit that tire up, and it spun him out and goes around. Is, like you said, many mistakes being made here from a few drivers that are going to have major recovery drives through the field, and you can't let those mistakes compound. You can have that one mistake and try to get back and get a decent finish out tonight, but if you let those mistakes compound and make your driving that much more worse, then you're going to have a tough night here in Japan.
I mean, usually when you go to these tracks and you make the early mistake, you say, oh, all right, well, I can at least recover. At the ovals, it's a lot easier to recover when you have an early issue, but here in the road course with no full course yellow, I think for myself, I'd rather see a yellow. Rather have my mistake later on, so at least I know I'm solidified in the position I'm in, as Mark Whitley trying to make the pass here. 5th place for the 77, as you got Christopher Norris in front of him. Norris going a little bit wide, as that of Mark Whitley trying to set up for the next corner as they come into that of the hairpin corner. Yeah, this is turn 6 and 7 the drivers are dealing with. A beautiful pass by the 77, but I've been watching our leader, Zach Trenton jump. He is already starting to feel a little bit of that rear end kicking out, and we're just on lap number 2.
I've seen the exact same thing, Sam. He has stepped out multiple times, and he steps out into the grass there. Almost had the Cody Reed moment there. Luckily, he was able to not jump in the gas, and he didn't go around. But yeah, with those moments like that, Nick Crawford's sitting there saying, okay, do your thing, man. I'm going to save my equipment here, because if you continue that, those rear tires are going to be very hurt, and he misses that corner there a little bit, even in the 46. So we are seeing chinks in the armor here for this 46 machine, and the 74 is definitely, I think, liking what he sees here for this opening 2 laps.
And drivers were given a total of 4 extra sets of tires in pit road. A lot of drivers were trying to prepare fuel mileage wise on how far they were going to be able to push out their fuel. I was getting reports that some drivers thinking 24 to 26 could be even longer than that, based on the fact of how slow drivers might have to get with the tire wear factor. But Trenton Jump leads our first 2 laps here tonight, down into turn number 1, heartbreaking zone for himself, but overcorrects. Here comes Nick Crawford, throwing it down low, a lot smoother of an exit, side by side for our leaders, through that of the kink at turn 2, down into turn number 3, a hard-braking zone, an opportune chance, but Nick Crawford backs out, sets up for the exit of the corner. He's right on the back bumper, trying to get the 46 loose, not able to do so, as Nick Crawford just settles in. He'll attempt once again as they're coming through turns 4, 5, and heading into the hairpin of turn number 6.
It's a long race. I think if you're at 74, you like what you're seeing with the mistakes, but you cannot try to get something done too quickly, because you can easily end up in a mistake yourself, and there'll be Danny Cochran sitting in the background looking to take advantage of any mistake these 2 leaders make. So you got to stay with it, but you can't also step yourself out trying to go forward. So it's always a tough act to play. But right here in these opening laps, it's showing mistakes are sitting around each and every one of these apexes and these exits of these corners. Drivers are going to have to be perfect, and Trenton Jump still stepping out the rear end here in this 46. His rear tires may be struggling the farther we get into this run.
Talking about the fuel runs, drivers were trying to think of how do we just split this race in half. Based on what I'm seeing with tire-wise, that might not be an option, as here comes the pass for 6th place. Joshua Kanata in the 16 machine makes it into the inside of the groove, makes the pass on the 00 of Ethan Smith. And talking with Ethan Smith coming into this race, he said, just surviving is the key. He's kind of surprised on how fast he was running, but it's about finding consistency for the 00. And if he gets a top 10 run, he's happy with that type of success.
He's going to look to make the move here, down in 1. This is the longest front straightaway you're going to have in road course racing. He looked to dive it down the inside, but just did the dummy move where you stick your nose out there, try to make the driver think you're going to make that late diving maneuver with the brakes, and that makes them usually tense up a little bit, brake a little bit later, and then they might make the mistake and make it an easy pass for yourself. So definitely a move that I know a lot of road course racers use, and it's one of those racecraft elements that you have to use as a driver to try to make easier passes on yourself, because if you're just out there diving into the corner thinking you're going to make it stick, it can easily end up in an incident very quickly.
It most definitely can end up in a mistake, or just something that the snowballs more and more as the run goes on, as you're seeing these drivers all just trying to run a perfect race the best that they can at this time. And you get to see that as we're riding on board the 16 of Joshua Kanata, who is luckily one of the drivers that we've talked about throughout this season. He's had some misfortunes with equipment failures with his VR going out, costing him some decent finishes for himself. But I'd say, Zach, I was talking with the 16 as well. It just seems like having a VR has a huge advantage when you're here at this type of a course.
No doubt. When you're able to look left to right and see those apexes that are very blind, these are blind apexes. And what we mean by that, folks, is most of the time in your single screen monitor or your triple screen monitor, you cannot move your head. You know, you keep it stationary. It stays in one point of view. And if you can't see the apex of the corner to your right or to your left, it's hard to judge based off of that where you need to put the truck. With the VR, you're able to turn your head to point to that apex, able to see it and spot it a lot easier. So I do think this is where VR is a bigger help than any of the other tracks that you go to, is just being able to spot stuff at road courses that much more quickly and be able to relate to just real life vision.
And you also could see while we're riding on board the 16, heavy downshifts into that turn 1, now past the kink. Into turn number 3 is the 16 machine trying to catch up to that of Christopher Norris. Norris trying to run his own separate race, as seeing the drivers go through turns 4, 5, this long swooping right-hander into one of the next hard-braking zones of turn number 6, the hairpin. And Zach, I know you got to spend a little bit of time trying to practice this track. I mean, what are some of the more difficult aspects of this corner as we come out of turn 7 down into 8?
Well, it's always the thing that makes things more difficult, in my opinion, is when the braking zone is turning. And that is when the truck is going to be most upset. And also these downshifts, when you have to brake, downshift, and make sure you match those revs. And what I mean by matching revs, folks, when you shift down a gear, if the RPM range is not in that right area, you will what we call wheel hop. And when you wheel hop, it just has pretty much that rear end jump up and down. And when you don't have that tire contact patch of the tires on the ground, you're losing grip and you're just pretty much hanging on for dear life at that moment. And I feel like a lot of these turns, that is a common syndrome you're going to have, because you're hard downshifting and you're also hard braking while you're turning. It's all three of the kind of the worst scenarios there. John Forbes is trying to hold on to his machine there, wheeling it out of the final corner. It just shows you that you're always working when you're at a road course, and this track definitely highlights most of those skills that you have to be so good to have that finesse to be able to get yourself around this racetrack.
And with that slight mistake by the 11 of John Forbes, going to allow the 98 of Malik Coates. Coates still looking for a solid finish this season. This 98 just has been having poor luck after poor luck last week. Best finish so far of 18th place, but has been running in the early portions of these races in the top 10, if not the top 5 at moments. And Zach, I think that's the one thing that's always surprising when looking at some of these drivers is having speed, but the the luck factor, and also sometimes the skill factor of trying to have good finishes at the end of races. It's been interesting to watch how that has grown for some drivers from season 1 to now, and how it always seems like one season a driver succeeding and then has some failures at the end of races, but it's the next season when everything just starts to click and all comes together.
No doubt, we've seen big changes for sure throughout all these seasons with these drivers, and it's tough when you know you have the speed, you know you're running well through the early portions of the race, but you seem to just not be able to put it together. Something happens, you end up in a mistake that takes you out, or end up in someone else's mistakes that takes you away from the position you felt like you deserved. It's always tough to rebound from that, because it kind of becomes a mental block that you have to get through. You have to be able to say, it is not me, it's something else out there that I have to fix. And it does come down to sometimes just having that confidence, and when you don't have finishes piling up like you need, it can easily snowball and make you feel like you're just not as confident on the racing surface. And confidence, I think, is a huge thing when it comes to racing out there. You just don't have it, you're not going to perform as well as in up to the potential that you have. So hopefully drivers like Malik Kuntz can get that good finish to give them that confidence to say, I can finish these races where I think I deserve to.
Fall back to that of Tyler Dangler, and behind this 19 driver that's the highest from the recovery first lap issues, Cody Reed, up to 15th position. He fell all the way down to 25th. He's gone up 10 spots. He's seen some other drivers succeed on coming back through the field, but then they slipped up, such as Eric Stamp, who's actually up to that of 12th place before he had a mistake that dropped him back to 21st again. As some of these Color Teal Graphics drivers struggling to just run well, but it seems to be a factor of it. If one is succeeding, The rest of that group of the Armadillos are always finding mistakes, as Logan Brakey now going to be making his pass on that of Ryan Crowfoot, and as well that of Kyle Rochelle trying to have a recovery run for that highlight 21 machine.
You can see on the front nose of Logan Brakey's after his recovery he's trying to make here, he does have a good portion of damage right on that front nose center punched, and that will take a little bit of downforce away. And with some of these corners like this one very well we're seeing right now, you need the downforce in the nose. If it's not there, the truck's just not going to turn as well as you need it to get through those high-speed sectors. So it is something that he'll have to deal with the rest of the race, but we'll see how the recovery continues as he's up to 18th, just past Crowfoot here. And I also just noticed on the leaderboard we did have a mistake. Danny Cochran made a huge mistake. He's back to 4th.
Slid back to 4th place, and just showing anyone, even the drivers that are up front battling for the lead, can have that simple mistake, and has lost over that of 4 seconds in total is that Danny Cochran, as well as lost position Mark Whitley. And for that, Danny Cochran, he's going to be hoping to try to, again, recovery run. It's going to be the talking point, surviving, staying on track. A lot of wordings that we're probably going to use a lot here tonight as we're on lap number 8, halfway through stage number 1, our stage break going to be at the end of lap 15. Full course yellow will not be thrown. These drivers will be staying on track, as Danny Cochran having slight connection issues. He's hoping that will get cleared up. As fall back to that Christopher Norris, we're seeing Norris, he qualified back in 6th place with some of the early mistakes that he had in front of him, moved up a couple of positions up to that of 4th, got passed by Mark Whitley, and now Joshua Kanata trying to close in the gap on the 38 as that mistake from Danny Cochran continues to grow. And Zach, I don't know if you figured out what exactly happened to the 2 machine that forced him back here to 4th.
Yeah, it seems like just a big slide for him that lost him all that time, and just unfortunate for him because he was running very, very consistent lap times in my opinion, and just lost the rear end under braking and kind of slid off the racing surface that luckily he saved. I mean, and because he turned right back across Mark Whitley, who it could have been a major incident. I think actually him plinking out kind of saved both of them from being knocked out of this race. But tire wear is kicking in. It's those corners that are braking while you're turning, and it's the rear end stepping out on these machines, and I'm seeing a lot of guys struggling with that, and the times are starting to finally fall off a little bit.
Starting to fall off, and also giving chances for a battle as the lead is closed in. Nick Crawford had a great launch out of the final bend. He's now right on the back bumper of the draft, allowing that of the 46, doing his best to defend. Before that of the 74, Nick Crawford closing in. Will he throw it down low for an aggressive pass? Looks like he'll just settle in place, forcing that Trent jump to go with the more defensive line, which here comes the potential crossover move by the 74, who's just kind of run his own pace. And Zach, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Nick Crawford. He's putting the pressure on, but not trying to force the issue.
That is exactly right, Sam. Putting the pressure on, and that's when mistakes happen, and it makes it easy pass. We don't have to use your tires up, because if he tries to go make that diving maneuver, he's going to actually use a good portion of that rubber up and having to drive off the corner in a non-optimal line. So I love what he's doing. You can see right there a little loose through that high-speed kink there as now they head through. This is the corner that Danny Cochran actually made the mistake. A much tighter exit there for the 74. Looks like completely different styles through that those 2 corners. But I do love what Nick Crawford's doing. He's just stalking this 46, and when you have somebody on your back bumper like this with the 74, it is so easy to make a mistake. You're just looking in your mirror, and right here a mistake almost with the 47 of John McAdams, and luckily Trenton Jump did a great job there. I thought he was carrying too much speed. He was able to make the exit and hold on to it, but look how much he's sliding through those corners. At some point, those rear tires are going to start to show up here for this 46, as I think Nick Crawford here has just been much more patient when it comes to that.
That he has, and with also the closing in by Nick Crawford onto Trenton Jump and putting the pressure on, it's kind of forcing both of the drivers to be a little bit slower than what those faster times were just about a lap or 2 ago, which is allowing Mark Whitley to close in, as well as Danny Cochran to try to close in the gap the best that he can. As say that though, the 2 saw there at the back of the picture an extreme wide line for Danny Cochran, and he'll lose even more ground for himself as our top 3 settle in and prepare for going down into turn number 1.
Puts him in threat here of losing another spot here to Christopher Norris, who is looking for one of his best runs he's had all season here. He's always performed pretty well on these road courses. It always seems like a place where he can get a good finish out of it. And Danny Cochran's going to be wide right here in front of him off of turn 1, but luckily for Cochran, he does get a solid enough run off that wide exit that he's able to hold on here and not have any threat from the 38. But still, another great run from the 38. I was starting to worry about him because he had Kanata closing in on him, but he's actually pulled a little bit of a gap now to that 16. I was wondering if maybe his tires were starting to fall off after getting passed by Mark Whitley and falling into the clutches of this 16. So great job by Christopher Norris here, just hanging on for the moment.
Christopher Norris, one of the drivers that were able to make it to our top 12 in the playoffs last season. Currently, right now, he is not going to be that of tied 19th in points with Robert Schmitz. In front of him is going to be that of Justin Smith, Matt Upbrook, and taking that 16th and cutoff line, going to be Eric Stamp. Stamp, right now, only going to be able to be in front of Christopher Norris by just that of going to be of 6 points. And with where the drivers are at, the bonus points that could be grabbed, Christopher Norris could be, based on a good run here tonight, could be finding himself going for the chance to be that cutoff driver going into next week, which these next 2 races, Kansas, Bristol, getting back to more traditional racetracks compared to this last 5-race split that we've had for the last couple of weeks.
It's been a wild split, that's for sure. Just all over the place when it comes to tracks, and I'm sure some drivers will be glad for that to change up so they can get back to a normal schedule and just feel confident. I mean, again, I was talking about it earlier, confidence is just so huge, and when you have experience and confidence, it allows you to make those much more predictable moves for yourself. So I think these drivers will definitely enjoy getting away from these. At the same time, though, you like a new style out there, a new little taste of a racetrack out there, because it does sometimes get dull. You run so many of these seasons that you're just like, man, I've ran this track so many times. And then when you come to a new track, it gives you that new little bit of flavor that you possibly need in your life just to have that much more fun on these racing surfaces. So I applaud ISRC for doing this and taking the chance on a lot of these tracks that are new to the schedule.
Taking a chance, and also what kind of makes these tracks fun is, it was a league voted schedule that was voted on of which tracks were going to be eligible. There were tracks the admins threw out and then gave the drivers themselves the ability to choose, hey, which tracks do you want to race in next season? And Fuji, one of the tracks that was voted in out of the 4 that were picked for the road courses as well, is that Watkins Glen. And then to start out the playoffs, going to be one of the last road courses of the season, going to be the Daytona road course to start the playoffs off. So drivers aren't done with the road courses just yet, so drivers better get used to still turning left and right in just that of 4 weeks. As again, a good picture of Dakota Moniz at this moment in 12th place. He's got some great racing action in front of him, as well as behind and in front. Getting to see that of Ollie Fonseca, Jordan Schmitz, and Malik Kuntz battling for 9th place in front of this 5 as they're trying to close in on John Forge, but seems to be the Ford machine trying to set up how to get by Malik here, who runs a very tight line, and that's an opportunity. Watch out. Ollie Fonseca trying to make the push on the inner groove. Was not able to get the best launch that he wanted, but clean enough to make the pass on the 4.
Very good job there from the 24, taking advantage of the 4, trying to get into the corner and gotten possibly just a little too deep, was going to maybe even hit the 98, so he had to actually hit the brake a little bit harder. I believe that steps out the rear end in the center of the corner, and look at this hard braking down in the 1. He's going to close in on the 24, but just not be able to dive back to the inside. As Ollie Fonseca now in that 10th position. Can he run down the 98 at Kuntz? And also, I mean, Forbes not that far off the road, only about 2 seconds from this group right here is that number 11 machine. So we'll see if these drivers start to group up even more, because we're having quite the battle back here from 8th on back.
We are, as Ollie Fonseca, that pass for 10th place, massive for points. That's why we're going to see the 24 who's trying to be aggressive. Ollie Fonseca comes in 6th into points, trying to close in on the gap on that of Ethan Smith, as well as Noah Steele, who's had a great couple of runs. Not seeing the 8 machine out there on track. I mean, Zach, drivers missing races. It's a known thing that's going to happen throughout a season where drivers are going to miss 1 to 2 races. That does give opportunities for some drivers to move up in positioning, as GT Irizarry, Logan Brakey, they battle here for 17th position.
It's one of the things that I always, as a driver, try to explain to other drivers that aren't confident at road courses that, man, this could be your opportunity to gain a lot with somebody. People, a lot of times, in my opinion, they come to these road courses and just ride them off. They don't try really, I'd say, necessarily to get better at them. They just say, man, I'm just going to struggle at them, so whatever happens, I might not even show up for sake of, we're trying to get by Thorne up there in the 15 who was off track, and that's going to be a position for Irizarry. back what I was saying there is it's pretty much one of the tracks where, in my opinion, if you just limit mistakes at road courses, you can get out of there with a very, very good day most of the time. So I think drivers just need to start taking more of that into mind when they come to road courses and not worrying about where you finish. It's about making a better day than what you could have had before. And that's when it comes down to just being more consistent. And road courses love consistency, that's for sure, as there's no yellow flags to bring it all back together.
No full course yellow flags will be thrown here tonight. There will be sector yellows. If a driver has issues, it will be given off to the drivers themselves of, hey, warning, there's a driver either stopped or going to be off course, and you have to be aware of when you close into that group. But with no full course yellow, drivers are going to have to make the opportune times to close in on the driver ahead just based off of raw speed. Currently, right now, up front, still that Trenton Jump, who's been able to pull away from Nick Crawford, who had a little bit of a spill sliding out of turn 1 just out of a lap ago. But as we're closing in to that lap 15, top 10 drivers are going to get bonus points at that point of the race, the end of lap 15, where our leader will get 10 points, 9 points to second place, 8 points to third, and it will continue to dwindle down until we get to 10th place, where only 1 bonus point will be given, which right now is that of Ollie Fonseca. But Ollie Fonseca could be under fire because there is a great battle for that of 11th position that was happening. That's Jordan Schmitz trying to hold off the 5 machine in Dakota Moniz, and Moniz looks fast here, Zach. And based off the times that I was seeing before, this 5 machine does have the pace to try to close in for 10th at Ollie Fonseca.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the times, he is fast enough to be running 4th right now. He's matching lap times with Danny Cochran up front, 144.94 for him to Danny Cochran's 144.91. So everybody in front of him in the 146s or the 145s. This time drops a little bit of speed. I'm sure as he's closed in, that kind of makes things tougher. But also he's even got Ryan Ferraro right behind him in a 145 flat. So all these drivers so close when it comes to pace right here that it's open for anybody. Even Cody Reed behind him, he's turning 144s in the 14th position. So it's starting to stack up from 15th on forward all the way up to that 8th position. I think anything is really possible here for this group when it comes to gaining or losing positions here as this race plays out. And especially with the strategy, I think you're going to see a lot of guys break it dead even. Right in the middle, lap 20, you're going to see a lot of people on pit road because they're going to be wanting to get new tires on that thing. But you may see a few drivers want to stretch it, extend it, saying, hey, I got a little bit more pace left in these old tires, and they'll extend it that little bit farther to have that advantage for later in the race. So we'll see who elects to do that, or do we see some undercuts play out where someone hits pit road a little bit earlier, saying I'm stuck behind someone, I feel like if I get some clean air, I can really drive away from this person. It's one of those things on road courses that I love, is it's all about the timing of when you pit.
And staying out in that extending a little bit further was exactly why Watkins Glen, back for race number 4 this season was so exciting in the way that it was because we had 4 different drivers with 3 different strategies. 1 pitted extremely early, 2 decided to pit dead in the center, and then 1 that Nick Crawford decided to stay out a little bit further out than everyone else because he felt like he could utilize those fresh rubber to the maximum potential. And it was Cody Reed who had that little bit of a middle ground decision that found himself in a victory lane. But carries on, it's looking like it's just going to be a 2-truck battle between that of Trenton Jump and Nick Crawford. But again, we've already seen that at Danny Cochran. Some other drivers had mistakes earlier on. Mistakes are possible to happen at any moment as we are on the stage break lap. This is your lap stage break, as the drivers, once they come across the line, it will be your top 10. Where they lie will be getting those stage bonus points for themselves. No full course yellow will be thrown. But currently, it's Trenton Jump, Nick Crawford comfortably in your top 2 positions.
Comfortably for sure, but they had a little bit of a scare there a few moments ago. The 43 of Kyle B. Tays in 25th spun around as they were coming to lap him. Luckily for Trenton Jump, no damage or nothing there. He was able to navigate by him as the 43 stayed on the very inside of the corner and allowed these drivers to go by. So great job there by the 43, just locking down the brakes and holding it together. But We check out third place, the 77 of Mark Whitley, who, man, what a great drive for him from the 11th to 3rd. I mean, he was all the way up to the 5th position after the first lap with that great first start with all the calamity that happened down there. He was able to gain a ton from it, and he's taken advantage of it. Wasn't as quick in practice, wasn't as quick in qualifying, but he's just been really consistent so far, and turning laps comparable to our leaders, pretty much matching them, and then sometimes having a few times where he loses that little bit of a gap. So great recovery for him, and great job by learning through this race to just get that much quicker, in my opinion.
It's been a great run for the 77. He was really struggling to find that true raw speed in the middle of qualifying, in the middle of practice, but started to find a little bit of extra and going to be able to get himself moving forward. As currently right now, top 10 drivers have crossed the line. It's going to be Trenton Jump, Nick Crawford, Mark Whitley. Going to be also Danny Cochran, Christopher Norris, Joshua Kanata, Ethan Smith, John Forbes, Ali Fonseca, and that of Malik Kuhn. It's going to be your top 10 drivers, as when the drivers came across the line, that's where they were lying, but that's going to be a battle for 4th place. Christopher Norris has gotten by that of Danny Cochran.
They were side by side crossing the line. Luckily for Danny Cochran, he holds on to that position at the start-finish line, so he does get those 4th place stage points. Chris Marshall will get 5th, but now the pants have switched over. This 38, great job by him. He pressured this 2 for multiple laps and kind of stuck with it. Now he has some clean track before pit stops to see if he can open up a little bit of gap to allow him to have some breathing room when we do come to pit road, and see maybe if he can, just get into no man's land here. It's got about 7 seconds up the road to Mark Whitley for him, and see if he can build that gap, because they've pulled about a 5-second gap back to Kanata in the 16. So this is really looking great for this 38 to possibly a good top 4 finish, and even if someone up front has a mistake, maybe even break into the top 3.
Top 3 certainly is still viable, especially in the fact that our leaders have not been able to get away from one another. The exact same battle that we're seeing on screen for that of 4th place is almost exactly what's going on for our leaders. They just cannot get away from one another, but it's more impressive on the fact that Trenton Jump and Nick Crawford lost time. He fell back to over a second and a half back after a big slide. He's been able to recover and get back to the back bumper of Trenton Jump. It's great to see this recovery from that of the champions of 74 machine and Nick Crawford, but that color teal 46 machine of Trenton Jump, he knows how to win at a road course before. He did it back at Watkins Glen back in season 2. He wants to get back into victory lane once again for himself. He's already gone to victory lane at Darlington 3 weeks ago, but tonight would be a special one to be a 2-time winner in season 4.
You're exactly right about that, Sam. It'd definitely be a special one, but I think Nick Crawford, he wants that win also. He's never won on the road course, and I remember Road America from last season. He was so dominant, had the connection issues that took him out late in the race, handed the win over to the 2 machine to Danny Cochran, and from there, I think the 74 has been wanting to get back at that one, get that win that he felt he deserved, and tonight might be his chance, because like you said, he fell back to a 1.5 seconds after a mistake in turn 1 about 5-6 laps ago, and he has stalked him back down right onto the back bumper. So this 74 does have a little more pace in tow, but the thing is that Trenton Jump has been just good enough to not allow that 74 to make the maneuver that he needs to get past him. And when you're just good enough, that's what all it takes sometimes. You don't have to be dominant out there. You just have to be just good enough to beat the guy behind you, and he's been that so far. But I can tell you what, he is managing a very loose rear end right now, as he's been doing that the whole run. It's just impressive to see the wheelmanship from the 46.
It's been incredible to watch and press F and chat. Pay respects. Ryan Ferraro is going to be out of this race, disconnected for himself. A packet loss to 51. He was running in that 12th position before that issue popped up, and he will join the fray of John McAdams and that of Jesse Thornock. Going to be out of this race currently. The 51's going to try to get back into the server as soon as possible, but it's more than likely that he's going to be finding himself at least 1, maybe 2, potentially even 3 laps down if he decides to come back into the server. Tough situation for a driver that was making the climb through the field, as still watching the battle for the lead. Trenton Jump, Nick Crawford. And just like what we were talking about before, really at this point, looking like it's going to be based on who makes the pit stop first. And Zach, I would say if you're Nick Crawford, you're aiming to be the first one to come into pit road, and you're going to have to hope that Trenton Jump comes in either the next lap or the same lap, because this 74 looks so clean. It was a lot of speed, but he's not been able to fully make the pass just yet.
I'm very intrigued to see what he does when it comes to strategy. I mean, he has options. He does definitely have those because he's been a little bit quicker. And I mean, on the same set of worn tires here, they've been running pretty consistently 144 fives to really 144 flats each and every lap up here up front. So they've kind of evened out when it comes to times. I'm interested to see, does he pull the undercut maneuver like you're speaking of here to go and pit earlier than this? Oh, the 46s, he's wide there a little bit. The 74 almost dives it up the inside, so they're still battling out here. But he does have options. The undercut is there for taking. Does he want to do that and try to get the lead and hold on to it from there? Or does he do what he did at Watkins Glen to try to stretch it out and have that tire advantage so when he gets to him, he has the better drive off the corner? As you can see in the background, Mark Whitley, he's taking advantage of it in the 77. He's doing the undercut strategy as he's hitting pit road now.
Joining other drivers that are already coming to pit road, that is Cody Reed, the first driver to hit pit road the last lap. This lap was Eric Stamp as well as 77 of Mark Whitley. Joining with Mark Whitley is going to be Mark Morales Jr., as everyone else seems to be making a decision to continue to stay out on track. As our leaders continue to keep it close and slipping and sliding, lost time for Nick Crawford with a bad exit at turn number 1. Great battling side by side was for 8th place between that of Ollie Fonseca and John Forbes, but it looks to be pit stop for Ethan Smith now as the 00 comes in. I mean, for that of the 11 and the 00, his teammate from Blackjack Racing, Ethan Smith, both into pit road.
Blackjack Racing pulling the undercut strategy here, going a little bit earlier into their pit stops as Fonseca was just about to attack that 11 machine. The 24 is now going to have some clean road ahead of him. He's got Malik Kuntz in front of him in the number 98 machine. So let's see how this works out when it comes down to different strategies. Does the undercut work, or will the overcut be the way to go for the fresher tires? This is going to be a very fun segment of this race because we're going to have drivers on all different types of speed levels.
Who's going to have the big advantage? Who's going to be losing ground as drivers setting up? We're coming up to the halfway marker here tonight. You are watching the ISRC Race Car Graveyard Truck Series, race number 9 of the season. We got 2 more races after this before we get into the playoff action for season 4, as it is the Fuji Grand Prix presented by Saccity Diecast. And you're watching it all on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Zach Hall, Robert Moyer Jr., giving them a production in the background. It's Ollie Fonseca, Malik Kuntz keeping it close. And it's the 5 machine, Dakota Moniz, who is trying to keep it close to close in on these drivers that we're in the middle of a pit cycle. More drivers into pit road. Nick Crawford going to be the first of our top 2 to hit pit road. And this is the call, Zach, we were curious about. Could we see jump pit sooner, or was it Crawford? And that is our sign. It's the 74 first.
Oh, this is going to be fun right here to see how this shakes out when the 46 does finally hit pit road. I think if you're Trenton Jump, you kind of want to hope to come in this time because you had a gap there to maybe you'll be able to come out right directly ahead of him still, or you might wait another lap just to try to have the advantage. I mean, Nick Crawford in clean track when he didn't have the 46 right in front of him was quicker. So I think that's the strategy that the 74 is playing. He's saying, hey, I ran him back down multiple times after mistakes. I need to get in front of him so I can have a clean track in front of me to go forward.
And for that, Nick Crawford also lucking out on the fact that he did not get passed by Mark Whitley, who pitted the lap before. So showing that it does take a couple of laps before these tires really hit their own. But we'll see how that of Trenton Jump wants to set up as he's getting prepared to come around the corner. He's going to be seeing a driver in the grass in front of him. Troublesome positions for some of these drivers, as that was the 6 of Justin Smith, as Trenton Jump looks to be setting up for pit road. Will he come in this time? And it looks like it is. Trenton Jump only giving up 1 lap, and pit road is now his next destination.
And look at this entry to pit road. You got to be very, very careful. You got to make sure you make the most time out of it and then not speed when you get to the line. So we'll see who made the most of pit road here on the entry, because that could be the difference maker when it all comes down to for the lead battle. Nick Crawford into the 3rd sector now. We'll see how it shakes out as you're going to ride here with this 46 as he comes to his pit box.
Coming into his box, staying out, going to be Christopher Norris. Danny Cochran going to be following suit with that of going to be Trenton Jump. Joshua Kanata going to be into pit road. Ollie Fonseca as well as Dakota Moniz showing signs that they want to come into pit road as well. Nick Crawford's on that of heading on the front stretch, trying to make the pass on the 46. Trent Jump still in the middle of his pit stop. It's going to be close when they come out of pit road, but it looks to be Nick Crawford going to have the advantage as Trent Jump leaving his box now just out of the exit, and it's already a pass for that of the 74.
Great stuff here. We're going to have a battle on our hands now, folks, with the 74 out front, the 46 with the fresher tires. Now the 91 of Martin Morales in front of him, the lap truck. What does he do here in this situation? Nick Crawford's got to get around him very quickly. And trying to dive to the inside as the 91 lets him by, and that was a close moment there for those two.
It was a close moment, but they were communicating on what they were going to do. Martin Morales gave over the radio, I'm staying high, got out of the way, but it was certainly a longer time than what Trent Jump had to deal with. Trent Jump already by Martin Morales, and Nick Crawford, what should have probably been 2.5 seconds, it's just poor timing at this moment, is now only has about a 1.5 second gap lead over that of Trent Jump, but Christopher Norris still out on track. We'll see if he'll come into pit road this go around as he's coming around the last bend and coming onto the front stretch. But Zach, Nick Crawford looks so much faster on the long run. It's got to be a very protective run for Trent Jump. You cannot overuse these tires, or that's just going to throw away any advantage for a chance to win here tonight as we're at the halfway marker.
He's closing in quickly, and I think you're right, Sam. He can't get too overworked up about trying to close back down too fast, because if he goes out there and really heats these tires up quickly, I think that it'll swing back into Nick Crawford's favor here, as he does have the advantage in the 46 with having fresher tires, but quickly that can change things when you just overdrive it. And he hasn't been in the dirty air all night. The dirty air is a huge factor at road courses. You don't get as much downforce on the front nose. You don't have as much braking ability. You're in the draft, so you're actually losing a little bit of drag on the nose to slow you down. It makes making corners that much more hard. And with pit road being super busy, you also got the leaders having a busy exit on pit road. So they got to navigate through lap traffic here also. We got a battle on our hands here for the last 20.
Last 20 is going to be a good one, and you won't miss a thing. We're going to take a commercial break because we got to get one at least in here once. But when we come back, it's the duel between Nick Crawford, Trent Jump. Will a mistake strike as they're closing in on lap traffic? Who's going to win here at the Fuji GP presented by Saccity Diecast on Freaky Fast Broadcasting? We'll be back in just a few moments. We'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting. You are watching the ISRC Race Car Graveyard Truck Series. It's race number 9 as the drivers are back in Japan for the Fuji GP presented by Saccity Diecast. The drivers have certainly put on a fantastic show here tonight, but man, has it been a good one to watch all around, but giving us the opportunity to really check out and give you the best coverage of the ISRC Truck Series. They've got some great sponsors that allow these drivers to have the best show that they can. One of them is that of the Race Car Graveyard. Race Car Graveyard, the best diecast you can get. We talked about how you can go use the discount code RCGY for 10% off on your next purchase, as well as the stage break sponsor, the Laugh Lap. The Laugh Lap quality memes, go ahead on over to Instagram and check out the funniest laughs that you can have on track. And as well, that's going to be one of the major sponsors, going to be that of Larry Art Productions. Larry Art Productions been sponsoring races, and as well as the White Flag sponsor. Big thanks to all the sponsors again. If you want to go check out some great comedy, go to Larry Art Productions on YouTube and all socials. It's been a great one to cover here tonight at Fuji. We've had a great start, and we've had great race decisions, and now we're right back to where we were before pit stops. It's that of Trenton Jump leading the way over Nick Crawford, and it has been a duel between the two. Trenton Jump a little bit more aggressive, that put him back in the lead spot. Nick Crawford, on the other hand, has just been sitting in wait as we are closing in on that of 13 laps to go, currently with 14 to go here tonight. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me is Zach Collins. Zach, I mean, we were talking about it under the commercial break. Nick Crawford, the 74, had an opportunity to stay in the lead, but right now is just settling.
It definitely seems that way. It seems like he's settling for second at the moment. And, you know, the one thing I think that's holding the 74 back is in the difference between him and the 46. The 46, I mean, immediately as soon as he caught up to Nick Crawford, he used the front bumper. I mean, he got him up off the groove on the exit of the last corner and was able to stay close enough down the front straightaway to dive it up the inside. And I just haven't seen those aggressive maneuvers from Nick Crawford in this race. I don't know if he's willing to risk it right now for that, but he's going to have to get those elbows out here late in this race if he wants a chance, because if he does feel like he's quicker, you just got to go for it, in my opinion. You know, especially if the driver in front of you has gone for it, they've shown they're willing to risk everything and do it. You got to be able to be willing to use that front bumper, and if you're Nick Crawford, you just got to try to stay close enough so you have that opportunity late in this race to see if you can go for that maneuver. But at the moment, Trenton Jump with this lap has opened up the gap with a small couple mistakes from the 74. We'll see if he can do what he did before, where he has mistakes and is able to drive back up to him.
And also trying to show that maybe hitting that lap later is going to be a big enough advantage for Trenton Jump to hold the lead. He may have to make the pass, got it done. And really, it's just been the two-horse race on who's going to get the win here this evening, unless something catastrophic hits. But sitting back in third position, going to be that of Mark Whitley, which is that 77. Just been sitting strong. He's been running his own race, not really pressured by anyone after he got by Danny Cochran, who runs in fourth place right now. The Two Machine was one of those drivers that was up in the top three, thought he was going to be dueling as long as he could. But Zach, I got to say, fourth place runner Danny Cochran has not been having the same run that he was hoping for here tonight, just settling in fourth currently.
Yeah, settling in fourth, but I tell you, I mean, it's better than what he was. He was fifth, and he has about an 8-second gap back to Christopher Norris. So I'm kind of, you know, out here thinking, like, man, what happened there? I know Danny Cochran did pit one lap earlier than Christopher Norris there, as he pitted on the same lap as Trenton Jump, as Norris took it farther than anybody, but still just perplexed to see the gap that grew between those two. So checking out the 16 here, Sam. He looks like he's doing a good job of holding steady wheel here in sixth.
And Joshua Kanata kind of in a secure spot for the 16 machine. He's got a 16-second, almost a 17-second gap between himself and Christopher Norris for fifth place. But behind, where it's a little bit closer. We talked about how VR, a little bit of a bigger advantage to have, and Joshua Kanata currently using the VR system while trying to tackle this course here tonight.
That he is, man. He's trying to do his best he can with it, and hopefully no issues come to him again with that, because you never want to see that for a driver who's been having great runs like he has and being plagued by that. So we'll see how he works through it the rest of the night, but definitely a great look from his setup here at the Fuji Speedway here with the VR headset, heading around all these twists and turns of this 16-turn, 2.8-mile racing course. So we'll see how it works out for him the rest of the night. He's been kind of in sixth there in no man's land for a little bit, but he does have a little bit of a threat there with Ethan Smith, but Ethan Smith does have 2-lap order tires.
Yeah, Ethan Smith back in that 7th position. Going to be, again, like I said, dealing with his teammate. Then behind them is going to be Ollie Fonseca, the battle for 9th place between the 24 and that of the 25. As we drop back and we'll take a look at the battling for 9th place. As those drivers, Ollie Fonseca, he has been trying to stay in the position that he can right now. Talk about recovery runs. Cody Reed, he qualified in 5th place, caught up in that exit at turn 1 incident. The 25 has been trying to come back. Excuse me, he was caught up in that the end of lap 1 incident that got him basically from 5th place all the way down to 23rd. He's been able to climb back up to 10th, now trying to make the pass for 9th. And right now, Cody Reed, he was one of the first drivers to hit pit road. I mean, he's on some of the oldest tires, and Ollie Fonseca makes the mistake, and that's going to be almost collecting Dakota Moniz, who has to come to a complete halt. The 5. Luckily, they were in one of the slowest corners that allowed him to stop on a dime. That could have been a lot worse between those two drivers. As Cody says, thank you very much. Don't have to worry about Dakota and no longer about Ollie.
Oh, if you're Dakota, you're upset with that. It could have been a lot worse, but, Fonseca there has to know where he's out on the racing surface and not just pull back in front of a truck there. And that's a little bit of an awareness issue there for the 24. I'm sure he made that mistake and probably lost all thought of anything going on around him and was just trying to get back going. But with the 5 right there, you just can't pull right back ahead of him. That kind of stops any chance here of those two battling up with Cody Reed with the 4-second gap they've lost to him, unless Reed, Forbes, or Smith really make a huge mistake here late in the race.
And then our biggest mover so far here tonight, as we fall back from that of 10th to 12th position, Tyler Dangler. It's not one of those drivers that decided not to put in a qualifying time. Started in the back half of the field, and the 19 and the 14 of GT Rizzari goes off course. Both drivers getting on to that of the rumble strips, and it backfires quickly. Tyler Dangler up 12 spots, biggest mover so far. GT's going to lose over 2 positions as Logan Brakey, Jordan Schmitz able to get by that of GT. I hate to see that for a driver, especially coming up to 10 laps to go. And here's going to be the 15 of Matt Upbrook as that of Eric Stamp right ahead. Eric's been on a run for himself. He's had a lot of misfortunes, and now Upbrook's going to have the misfortune of spinning around as he might lose a spot to that of Kyle Rochelle, who's trying to close in, who's 14 seconds back for the highlighter machine.
Highlighter machine right here for sure, and he's going to be letting the leaders go by right here into this corner and see how they can navigate by him. I think Nick Crawford here is going to catch him right on the exit, and that's the worst case scenario for the 74. Luckily, the 21 did a good job of using the curb there to give as much room, but still a tough break there. You have to really pinch the truck off and really take away from the exit you possibly could have had there for Nick Crawford. So tough break, losing a little bit of time, but we'll see if he can start to regain, because he did gain a few tenths back on Trenton Jump after a few laps there of losing some time, but it just seems like that tire advantage that Trenton Jump has, he's got so much less pressure during this run, it's a little bit easier to save those tires also.
It certainly looks to be that, as riding on board, getting a sense of what these drivers are dealing with the 74 of Nick Crawford, trying to find a way to close in a 2.5-second difference, also having 1 lap disadvantage on the tires with pitting sooner than that of Trenton Jump. Nick Crawford trying to find a way to close in and make an aggressive move, but Zach, I mean, a lot of traffic. Just looking at the way that this race has gone, it just seems for Nick Crawford that timing has not been there with lap cars. That's not the first time that we've seen him catch lap traffic at a poor time and lose ground. It happened also when that Trenton Jump was coming out of pit road and the pass for the lead happened. At that point, gotta be saying for the 74, gotta be thinking, man, I've had so many opportunities to go for the win here tonight, but also misfortune has just not been there for himself.
I mean, I look back to the long run videos, he talked about how luck was on his side a lot of times. I don't know if it's been there tonight, especially even at Watkins Glen. We see him get held up by lap cars there. And a lot of times it's not even the lap car that's causing it. It's just the timing of the situation. That was more the case here tonight. It's just tough timings where you're catching them right at the exit or the entry of the corner. You'd rather catch them on the straightaway and be completely past them before you get to that corner. But it can be those valuable tenths of a second that you lose. But he's already done a good job to close down those tenths that he has lost to Trenton Jump.
As the drivers continue to race around 10, coming to 9 laps to go here in Fuji. It's been a great one to watch between the duel between Trenton Jump and Nick Crawford. They've been these two have been within one another. Within 2 seconds was maybe the biggest gap that they had when both were on the racetrack, and it has been amazing to watch. Other drivers that have been around one another throughout this whole entire race, the teammates of Blackjack Racing battling for 7th position. They're still on top of one another. But I gotta say, the duels between the drivers for that 6th, 7th, 8th, they are closing in on some lap traffic that are just piling on one another, and it's really the 16 of Joshua Kanata who's trying to find a way to get around this traffic, or at least hoping that they don't cause any issues in front of them to lose this 6th place spot that Kanata's trying to hold.
That is going to be super fun to see here, because Kanata's just been in no man's land like I was talking about earlier, but Ethan Smith, John Forbes, they've closed down the gap to him. They have older tires, but they really have closed it down, so we'll see how Kanata can get through lap traffic. It is another thing in these races and road courses where you just get better overall during the races, and even in front of him, Kanata is getting pretty much held up pretty bad here by the 6 of Justin Smith there. Caught him right there on the entry of the corner. Couldn't even get a good enough exit to get by him. This is going to allow Ethan Smith and John Forbes to have some time to gain here through this next sector.
And as well, they're going to have that of Malik Kuntz in front of them, that of the 98. Once again, a misfortune strikes in the middle of this race. Had to have extended time in pit road to force the 98 that once was battling inside of our top 10 all the way down to 22nd position. Justin Smith going to be in 24th spot, currently 2 laps down, trying to still battle and find a way to go forward as this 6th machine. The reason why he's being so aggressive, the position for that of 23rd is right in front of him. That is going to be Kyle B. Tate. That is the battling between lap cars, lead lap drivers, and this little cog having Malik Kuntz, who's really not even racing for position, just stuck in the middle of lap cars battling for one another and lead lap drivers.
This is the cork in the bottle right here, guys, is the 43 struggling right ahead of him. He actually goes off the circuit. That's going to allow Justin Smith to get the pass done on him. And I think the 43, he pulls it to a complete stop. Now he's going to get back going again. It's tough breaks for him as he lets them all go by there. But Justin Smith is on much fresher tires also than this group ahead of him. So I think that's what's allowing him to somewhat keep pace with them and not hold them up too bad. But it's definitely brought Smith and Forbes right to that 16 machine. It's only 0.7 of a second now separating the 00 and the 16.
Mistakes can be constantly moving forward as at this moment. Now Joshua Kanata going to be finally able to duck down low. Going to be trying to outbrake. He's going to lock up the tires. That is not good on his tire wear. And oh no, Ethan Smith able to hold on. John Forbes has to go extended wide to get around his teammate for 7th place. And a ton of loss of ground going to be made for the teammates that were trying to figure out how to get by that at 6th place of Joshua Kanata. This almost could throw it away. 8 laps to go, and tires are not looking good after that slide for the 00.
Oh man, that's for sure, Sam. Those heated those tires up a ton as it allowed his teammate Forbes, like you said, to get by him. And he's going to have a tough time trying to go back up there and catch Kanata now. And it just shows you just the timing of lap trucks is tough. Smith trying to get out of the way, doing his best job, just running his line. But that pinches off the entry there for the 00. It's probably hard on the brakes already, and it just locks up those rears, and he goes around as now they finally get past that 6th machine, and they're going to try to get back going and run down Kanata. But it was 0.7 of a second separating them. It's, there we go, around there as you see Forbes do the same thing, but Forbes saved it, and the 00 goes around. That allows Cody Reed, his teammate, to go by him. Also Fonseca, just multiple drivers there around, and even Smith went around with that.
Yeah, Smith went around, and this is also going to give a chance for Dakota Moniz to be closing on the gap. He'll be right there in the picture with 7 to go. And as these drivers have their mistakes up front as well being made, the gap at one moment was almost 2 seconds. It's now less than a half a second. Nick Crawford is back on the back bumper of Trenton Jump as we're coming to 6 laps to go and they cross the line. It's ramping right back up here, Zach, as they're coming down into that of the Dunlop corner, hard braking zone into turn number 10, and right into the section that we just saw all those drivers spinning out.
It is tough. You stick a tire off there in the grass, you're going around, we've seen so far. So you can't make any mistakes, and they're both sliding here, trying everything in their power, but Nick Crawford has gotten close. The question is, the 46 used the front bumper on him to get by with the fresher tires there in that pit stop sequence. Will the 74 do something similar here? He's got to try something because he's had the quicker laps consistently. It's just been once he gets to them, the lines that Trenton Jump is running, it's much wider entries that allows him to get very good exits, and it kind of cuts the 74 off right in the center of the corner.
And right now going to be seeing that, and Nick Crawford trying to close in the best that he can. Matt Upbrook going to be staying out of the way, allowing their front two to just duel down into the corner. Next lap car that's going to be up for our leaders might be that of Eric Stamp, but with 6 laps to go, they might not have to worry about the 53. As Trenton Jump, Nick Crawford trying to find a way to make this pass is the 74. Trenton Jump has done a great job defending, trying to minimize the mistakes. He might show some weakness, some chinks in the armor, but he has not fully given up this lead in an on-track pass. It is all the pass that was made for Nick Crawford to take the lead was under the pit cycle. The 74, will he make the move, be a little slightly aggressive, or will it be too patient for himself? I mean, that last lap, Zach, Nick Crawford tried a really unique entry style for the last corner. He might try it once again to try to beat out that Trenton Jump on the straightaway.
Very close here through this high-speed sector. Look, he's going to dive into the inside here through this portion, and now they're going to be side-by-side into one of the toughest corners. Nick Crawford to the lead.
To the lead over the rumble strips, able to hold on. Here comes that Trenton Jump with the potential to get back on the back bumper. The 46 takes the lead, but this is right at around the zone where the 46 used the bumper to get that lead spot after the pit cycle was done. 6 laps to go. The 46 needs to make this pass quickly because if Nick Crawford gets rolling, he might not be able to be caught back up as it coming around the last bend. Coming up 5 to go. Nick Crawford, the patience kicks in as he ramps it up to speed on the front stretch. The 74 has the lead. 5 to go here, Zach, and that was perfect. The exact mistake the 74 was looking for.
What a job. 1 lap older tires and still able to keep up with the 46 and get it done. But the 46 has been aggressive on the brakes here into 1. The 74 just needs a clean lap. He needs to open up the gap. He needs to be smooth and make all these exits the best he possibly can. And the 46, he's got to do everything in his power to make sure he keeps the pressure on the 74 Nick Crawford. But a great exit out of 1. That allows him to open up the gap just that tiny bit here heading into the middle sector.
But that's the one thing I'm getting nervous about, Zach, is that's the early corners where we're seeing Nick Crawford make mistakes. And Trenton Jump just seems so much faster at moments on that second half of this course. As right now, Nick Crawford hitting his marks as they're going through that of the hairpin turn 6, coming down through the corner, hard braking zone, trying to get back up through the gears, up into that of the throttle, try not to wheel spin. That's exactly what the 46 did, a little bit of a wiggle. Don't want to have too many of those, especially with 5 laps to go. They got 4.5 of laps left in this race, and Nick Crawford has to be careful. He's being quite aggressive there, Zach, on the entry of that turn 10 corner, and that is so close to the grass where we've seen so many mistakes in. He goes wide, trying to stay off the rumble strips. They both hit him, and it's going to be Nick Crawford still holding the lead.
If you hit those sausage curbs, those yellow ones there, you're going to be going for a ride, and they got so close, even kind of probably touched them a little bit with the tires here coming into the final corner. Though this is the key, you have to get a great exit out of the final corner to get a long run down this front straightaway so you have no opportunity to get out braked into turn 1. And it was a good exit for Nick Crawford, but this draft will allow that 46 to close back in just that little bit. But we'll see what happens here with 4 laps to go around Fuji.
Already have seen a couple of times, exit of turn 1, Nick Crawford loses ground if he gets in the throttle too quickly. 4 laps to go, 4 attempts. Turn 1, he's got to be perfect at this corner as he comes out of the corner, hoping that he's not going to have any rear end sliding. Not going to happen. Trenton Jump keeps it within a little bit over a half a second, trying to close in on the gap as they go down into turn number 3. Another portion where you get the rear end wiggle and losing time. Both drivers look solid as they're trying to close up through that. It turns 4 and 5, heading to the hairpin, where we've seen Trenton Jump try to close in the gap once again.
This has been a battle for the ages, folks. What a great job by both drivers to keep it this close over 37 laps. Different strategies, different driving styles, different lines. It doesn't matter. Their speed is dead even. And I'm telling you, this one ain't over yet. Give Trenton Jump a sniff of that inside. He's going to dive it up there, and he is going to try everything in his power here as they come to this curve here. They've been jumping it. Trenton Jump misses the corner, though. That's going to open up a huge gap for Nick Crawford and give him some breathing room here heading into the third sector.
It was Nick Crawford that we were surprised if he was going to make a mistake, but it's actually going to be that of Trenton Jump, who overshoots, make a mistake into turn 10, where it's been a crucial time. Thought it was going to be Nick Crawford because of how close he's been to that of the entry point of the apex of hitting the rumble strips, surviving, but a recovery run. Look at this 46 sack. Even with the mistake, he's right there on the back bumper of the exit of the corner. A little bit of a wheel spin, but he's just a terrible launch out of that last bend. All that time he gained, it's right back to square one.
Nick Crawford made an even mistake with him there in that final sector. Just overdrove that second to last corner. Didn't get the drive off he needed. That allowed Trenton Jump to get that much closer, but 3 laps to go, and they got the 53 of Eric Stamp up ahead. That is the Armadillo's teammate there of Trenton Jump. I don't expect Eric Stamp of anybody to cause any issues with this lead race up here, but never take that out of your mind when it comes down to the end of these races when you have teammates involved. We could see it get a little mixy, but I expect Eric Stamp, if they catch him, to be no problem.
Well, the issue is that they're starting to come up to gaggle of cars. It's not just one driver, it's multiple lap cars that they're going to have to deal with. The first one's going to be Tyler Horn in the 26. We'll see if he's just going to get out of the way. We've seen him do that throughout this run. Then it's going to be that of Eric Stamp. Then we're going to be seeing that of Kyle be the next driver. But that is going to be the 3 lap cars our leaders need to get by, as well as they're focusing on the drivers ahead of them. They're worrying about those tires as they come through that of the halfway marker. Coming down in turn number 10, this is where we saw Trenton Jump miss the corner, lose all that time. And it's going to be that Nick Crawford with the slight mistake on a bad entry. But the exit was strong for the 74 into the technical third sector, where out of the whole Crawford's rear end is slipping and sliding.
They're giving it everything here, Sam. Crawford missed that curb there on that other corner and just could not get the drive through the center that he needed. And now Trenton Jump's going to be pretty close here entering into the final corner. Nick Crawford, a little bit of a slip there in the middle. He's got to get a good drive off, a much straighter exit for him. That allows him to drive just enough gap away from that 46 not to allow him to dive here in the 1. It's going to be 2 to go, and we're going to have a show.
We got a battle for the lead and battle for last place as our leaders are closing in on that of Calby Tate, Tyler Horn. They both might be 2 laps down, but they're battling for 24th position as our leaders are battling for the lead. 2 laps to go. You can see the sun starting to set and the sparks are about to fly as Tyler Horn goes completely wide, not going to give any issue for himself. Same for that of Calby Tate. They are not going to be influencing this race in any way, but now it's the teammate for Eric Stamp. For that of Trenton Jump, it's Eric Stamp that's going to be the next lap car for our leaders.
What will he do will be the question. He has got really nobody near him. 9 seconds to the next car, 11 seconds up to GT Azari for him. So really no battles going on. I expect Eric Stamp maybe to just pull out of the way, but we'll have to see, folks. This could come down to a late last corner dive from this 50 or 46 machine. The 74 has to be perfect if he wants to hold off Trenton Jump, because these two, it just seems who can make the least amount of mistakes is going to be the winner.
Here we go. This is where the mistakes have been building up. Turn 10 to left corner. Going to be seen 74 down, hitting the rumble strips. Stays off the grass. A little bit of a wiggle move by that of Trenton Jump. But this is the corner where we've seen the contact that allowed Trenton Jump to make the pass right here. But Trenton Jump, he's starting to lose the rear end. He is slamming the throttle, trying to keep up the speed and keep it close to the 74. But the grip is just not there anymore. But he's going to be entering a little bit shallower into this final bed, trying to keep it close as that of Nick Crawford goes with a lot more of a wider entry, allowing a better exit as we're coming to that of the Larry Art Productions white flag. It is going to be the Armadillo teammates. Who will help? Will Eric Stamp just get out of the way or defend Nick Crawford? It's a 1-on-2 battle for the white flag here at Fuji.
6/10 of a second separating our top 2. And what does Eric Stamp do? Like you said, they're closing in super quickly on the 53. Let's see how this works out, folks. Eric Stamp going to go wide here. Let him go by. What a very great move from him there as he allows Nick Crawford and Trenton Jump, his teammate, to go battle it out. But look at this. Trenton Jump just couldn't get the drive out of the final corner. This has opened up a gap, but Nick Crawford has to be perfect through the middle sector, not to allow him to get close to Sector 3, because that is where the diving maneuvers, where the bumper can really come into factor here at Fuji Speedway. Nick Crawford looking for his first road course win. He's just got to make another half a lap here.
Nick Crawford taking a lot more just a passive approach. He's going wide on almost every corner on the entry, trying to set up for the exit of the corner, and it's allowing that Trenton Jump to close in every little bit as they're coming out of turn number 8 into bend number 9, down into Dunlop corner, where we've seen Nick Crawford be so aggressive. Will there be patience, or is it all about sending it to the end? Goes off the rails into the grass. Is going to be Trenton Jump, somehow holding steady, but he wasn't able to get the grip down into the final sector. Going to be seeing the 74 going a little bit wide. Same goes for that Trenton Jump. Not close enough. We're going to the last 2 corners. That of Nick Crawford trying to get himself into victory lane. He's seen so many mistakes before. He thought he was going to get his second ever career win in the ISRC, back of that of Road America last season in the playoffs. He didn't strike then. Out of the last bend here at Fuji, the Fuji GP. He lost the lead after taking it away, but he fought back, saw the mistakes from Trenton Jump, and Nick Crawford crowned him the winner here at Fuji. The 74 wins here tonight.
What a drive, folks. Congrats to Nick Crawford. First win on a road course for him, and ISRC continues the trend of just amazing road course races, man. I am a big fan of it. And you're going to see, I think, Nick Crawford already do a little bit of celebration here because he had to fight off one of the toughest drivers out there, man. Trenton Jump is no slouch when it comes to these road courses. He's been up front so many times in these races, and he gets the dub here at Fuji. That is a track that I think a lot of drivers didn't know what to expect coming in tonight, but the 74, he mastered how to be patient around it.
He certainly did. This 74 machine this season has been trying to fight and claw for so many different wins. I mean, you thought maybe it was going to be potential at Darlington where he finished second. Maybe it was going to happen at Auto Club where he finished that of third. We thought for sure it was going to be at that of Watkins Glen based on the pace that he had. It got held up by a lap car. And here tonight, lap traffic, playing nice. And honestly, I think that's the most honorable thing we saw there at the end of that race. All 3 drivers that could have influenced this battle at the end got out of the way as quickly as possible. They allowed the duel to go down, and Trenton Jump, I mean, he did his best to try to take the lead, save it, but just small little mistakes that just grew and grew where the tires just weren't there in those last couple of corners or just a couple of laps. And man, what a run by that Nick Crawford that thought maybe this race was out of his hand. I mean, Zach, when we came back from the commercial, we thought he was being a little bit too passive, but the constant aggression, constant pressure, it then gave that Trenton Jump the small mistake that opened up and allowed Nick Crawford to take the lead.
Ooh, my heart's racing. I can only imagine what those drivers are going through right now, Trenton Jump and Nick Crawford, because they put on one of the best shows at a road course that we didn't know what to expect. And man, just a classic battle between 2 top-tier drivers at ISRC that really came down right to the wire. And we, like you said, I mean, when we came back from break, I mean, it didn't look like the 74 had a chance after the newer tires got past them. And right there, just great racing between those 2 drivers right here on screen.
As Nick Crawford gets to slowly take his way on the front stretch, there's a lot of different drivers that have the potential to be spotlight driver. We'll discuss on who's going to be our spotlight driver, but when we come back, we'll talk to our top 2 on their duel, and as well another driver to be our spotlight on how their race went here in Japan. Fuji Grand Prix presented by Saccity Diecast. What a run. That was a pleasure to cover. As we are not done with your coverage, we still have the post-race show. We'll be back in just a few moments. Enjoy the smoke show from Nick Crawford. Well, that was an incredible tense. You never knew what was going to happen on the edge of our seats finish there with Nick Crawford getting himself into victory lane. First time this season, 7th different winner of the year. And man, it was a good one there late. As we head to victory lane, let's talk to that of the 74 machine. Nick, it's Sam and Zach of the booth. Congratulations, you're a winner here at Fuji. Thought maybe you'd get that first one of the season at Watkins Glen with that strategy. But man, how are you feeling after that one? Because we're still trying to catch our breath with how intense it was all night long.
Oh, Sam, I'm so sweaty right now. I should have had the fan on, but I'm super excited. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to outrun Trenton, especially when he got past me after pit stops, but it all came back, and I'm just sweaty and excited.
Well, Nick, congrats, buddy. First one of the season. And, the thing I want to lay down is just a great drive, first of all, from you. But do you feel like this is a little bit of redemption for Road America? Because we know that one got away from you. There were connection issues. Does this feel like it redeemed yourself just a little bit with tonight's win?
Oh, definitely. Watkins Glen was a good finish, but today is redemption, showing that we should have been fast, but sorry, the dogs. But yeah, this is definitely a redemption. I'm really glad that it happened, and just glad my internet stayed here.
Yeah, we saw a couple of people having internet issues throughout the night. We're happy yours stayed. It was certainly amazing for us to watch. I know for Zach and I, we were watching that transition of the pass when you took the lead at the beginning when that pit cycle ended, and then Trenton came back, gave you a bump, made the pass on you. We weren't sure. Were you at any point this race thinking about you were going to have to retaliate, give Trenton the bump, or were you going to be passive and just wait for him to make the mistake there late?
I never, I'm not gonna lie. There were times where I thought about maybe I'm gonna have to bump him to get around him, but he was using up his tires a lot early on, and there were times when he started to slide, and he got really loose out of one of the corners. I think it was a left-hander, and it's a long right kind of straightaway, and I just had to go because there's not many chances to pass. But yeah, I was more waiting for a mistake and last ditched effort if I was close enough. Maybe a bump, but I don't like to do that because being on the West Coast, sometimes with the latency difference, it kind of sends somebody for a spin. So I'd rather pass them clean.
Well, you did do it cleanly, and Nick, it was a great show for us to watch. Congratulations on the win. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
I always have to shout out my beautiful wife. I can't wait to tell her about this, that we got to win. And then I want to shout out my teammate, Christopher Norris. He was really helping me through the end of that race, really keeping my head in the game. Shout out to Revline. They brought us on, and they gave me a really cool paint scheme here. Looking forward to the future with them. And then, of course, I always shout out to you guys for putting on a great show.
Well, that is going to be the 74 machine of Nick Crawford. Congratulations on your win, and congratulations on getting the win that finishes up our 5-race chaos spree that we just went through. And now we're going back to traditional oval racing. Good luck heading to that of Kansas.
Bye.
As we go from victory lane, let's go check out on second place because Trenton Jump put it all on the line and came up just one position shy of winning here this evening. Trenton, it's Sam and Zach up at the booth. Come away second, but man, what a run for yourself there. You had the lead for the majority of this race. We saw how much you were putting in with how loose that machine looked at almost every corner. How are you feeling after that performance here tonight?
Yeah, definitely a solid performance for sure. I definitely feel like I threw it away. I made a mistake and caught the grass and had to lift, so I didn't spin, and he got by. And once the tires kind of equal off and get old, it's kind of hard to pass. And for whatever reason, you kind of feel dirty air, and nose don't turn, so there's no really getting back past him. And I wasn't gonna get stupid and hit him. He always races me clean, and then I always race clean back. So, but yeah, solid night, solid points tonight. Got the stage run again, so that's all we're looking for now.
That's definitely for sure a solid night for sure for you, Trenton, man, leading a lot of laps up in the last 5 races now, including tonight 6. You've led laps in, man, and continuing good momentum. But you had, like Sam said, you led a lot of laps here up front, but you had the pressure, Nick Crawford, all night. How tough is it to deal with somebody at a road course when they're right behind you, knowing that any mistake could be the difference between the win or the loss?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do a lot of practice this week, so that probably would have helped. But Nick's a really good driver on road courses, and I think he was faster than me all night. I think it's just once the tires equalize, it's just so hard to pass. There's not a lot of passing zones here, um, and that's why I kind of felt if as long as I stayed in front of him, there wasn't really no shot of him getting past me unless he physically hit me out of the way. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really deal with pressure too much. I just got caught up coming out of the one corner and it wheel spun and I shifted, and then next thing I know, I was going out towards the other track and caught the grass a little bit, so I had to lift and let him go. So
Well, I mean, Trent, we're now going to be heading into more traditional ovals as well as we're now 2 races away from the playoffs starting up. I know you want to get yourself your second championship in the ISRC Truck Series as you won it back in season 2. How are you feeling like you can come into Kansas and Bristol to try to set up the momentum heading into the playoffs here shortly?
knowing how many races that we've led laps in the season and probably could have won, I'm not feeling too worried. I think the next 2 races are Kansas and Bristol, so I know Kansas I'll probably be pretty strong at, and Bristol I'll probably be fine before the playoffs start. But it's a good thought to know that I could have swept both of the Japan races, had not a late 8 come out at Motegi, and then had I not slept up here tonight. But I mean, it is what it is. We got to win. We're already locked in, so we're just trying to collect some stage points and collect some bonus points before the playoff starts.
Oh, we can't wait for those playoffs. But Trent, before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, I just want to thank the admins of the league for running this thing and allowing me to be in here and run, and you guys for broadcasting it, and my painter Justin at Color 2 Graphics for painting my beautiful trucks, and all my teammates at Armadillo Motorsports. They were not ready for tonight, and I pushed them and pushed them and pushed them, and they were finally starting to pick up some lap times, and I think they got some pretty good results. So proud of them boys. Yeah. Anyways, see you guys next week.
Well, that's going to be the 46th machine of Armadillo Racing. Trent Jump, congratulations on second place and good luck next week at Kansas. As we go from second place, we'll go to our spotlight driver who is outside of the top 10, but is our biggest mover of the night. We are going to be bringing in that of the number 19, Tyler Dangler, up in the booth. Tyler, I know you're kind of shocked by us picking you as our spotlight driver, but you were the biggest mover of the night from where you qualified, and the biggest mover of the drivers that decided not to put in a qualifying time for yourself. Man, how are you feeling coming away with 11th place finish with how far you had to climb through and the mess that you had to drive through as well throughout this evening?
Well, Sam, honestly, I felt like I could have been up a couple more positions. I had spun out after the pit cycles had gone through a couple times, made a bunch of mistakes there, which really kind of put me down for most of the race. But I was able to hold on to it. I tried qualifying. I actually went off on my first lap, and then I just spun it going into turn 1 on my second. So I had no choice but really to start from the back.
Tough there starting from the back, Tyler, but you did a great job rebounding, tying your season best finish, and it was also at Motegi. So Japan seems to be the best for you at the moment with this season. I mean, take us through this track, though, man. This was a difficult track here, and you really navigated your way well through the field.
Oh yeah, Zach. This track honestly mixed in with Motegi, both of the Japan tracks on this schedule. I absolutely love running. I've never ran these tracks before in an actual race, but doing just practice laps after practice laps, I've grown to be quite fond of these 2 tracks over here. I hope they're back on the schedule next season, but apparently Japan is where I'm home.
It certainly does seem like that. But Tyler, we're now heading back to the more traditional racetracks. We got Kansas and Bristol before we get into the playoffs. It's based off the points, you're looking pretty solidified on trying to point your way in. But with being 2 races, you never know what could happen. How are you feeling with that type of pressure, knowing that, before tonight's race, you were 14th in points. You might be able to move up a couple of more positions based on how some other drivers finished here this evening. But how are you feeling knowing that the cutoff line is right on your tail end coming into these last 2 races?
Yeah, I really haven't had much time to actually think about that. Last week at Port Royal wasn't my best performance, getting wrecked out just over halfway through the race. That really put a damper on me really being confident in securing my spot in the playoffs. But Kansas and Bristol, I feel pretty confident at those racetracks. Haven't put too many practice laps in, but I guess I kind of have to now. But I'm excited. Hopefully I make it in. If not, we just keep trucking.
I can't wait to see how you perform in these next two races here, Tyler. But before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Of course. I'd like to thank you guys first off for obviously broadcasting. You guys do a great job week in and week out. I'd also like to thank my mom, my girlfriend. I believe she's also watching out there too. Also Norris and Nick for being in the voice chat with me tonight. And once again, you guys for broadcasting.
Well, that is going to be the number 19 machine of Tyler Dangler. Congratulations on 11th place, and good luck next week heading to Kansas.
Thank you, Sam.
As Tyler will be our spotlight driver of tonight. But let's go take a look at the unofficial positions results of this evening. It was a wild one here in Fuji, as a lot of drivers were searching for every position possible. Some drivers able to recover better than others, but certainly a wild show at the end where we got to see the duel of Nick Crawford, Trenton Jump. They were going back and forth here this evening, but it goes to that of the 74 machine getting the win. That Trenton Jump going to be coming in second. Mark Whitley going to come away with third for himself. As honestly here, Zach, as we get the results up, the rest of the top 10 with that of Danny Cochran in fourth, Christopher Norris fifth, sixth goes to John Forbes, Joshua Kanata seventh, but it's going to be 8th place and 10th place for Cody Reed. Logan Brakey caught up in lap 1 incidences, but still came away with a top 10 run, with Dakota Moniz finishing out finishing out in 9th place for the rest of our top 10.
Excellent recovery from Reed and Brakey there. I mean, they were in the depths. They were at the very back of the field, and they had to really dig deep and get themselves up there and really have great drives. I mean, those really good drives all around. John Forbes even had a big night, 15th of 6th for him, so good stuff on them. We had a lot of guys make mistakes late in that race. 13th there for Ethan Smith, GT Rosario. We saw him go around. We saw Ali Fonseca in 15th go around. Eric Stamp involved in that first lap incident. So tough breaks all around. I think Malik Coons, he was up in the top 10 at one point. He's going to finish 22nd, and that just continues the trend of him running good early in races and not being able to finish him out. So Fuji was a blast, though, man. I am thoroughly impressed by how these drivers done here tonight, how it raced, and we had a great show for sure, as a few guys had tough nights, but other ones out there really made the most of what they could.
We still have one more road course left this season. It's going to be the start of the playoffs, and that of April 3rd. That's going to be in just that of 3 weeks. But for these drivers, they've got 2 more regular season races left, and it is closing in quickly on who's going to be in the top 16. For a lot of drivers, it might have to be a win and you're in. But Nick Crawford joins that of the catalog of drivers that have won so far this season. 74 gets himself back into victory lane for his 2nd career ISRC Truck Series victory, but it's going to be his first here in Fuji. Congratulations to Nick Crawford, and also for Trenton Jump for giving us a great show at the end. But for tonight, thank you for Zach for joining me, for myself, Sam Dyer, for Robert Moyer Jr., and everyone else in the background here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Thank you for joining us on your Monday evening for that of the ISRC Truck Series. Cannot wait for next week, but we are not done. We've got more broadcasts throughout the week, as tomorrow night going to be that of the Full Send Racing Series in the trucks, as well as we're going to be seen on Wednesday back after their all-star break. It's the Wicked Racing League and the Next Gen Cars. Thursday is in the ARCA with the Stars and Stripes. Saturday, WSSR is back to full running, and we cannot wait for the rest of this week. Great action, great racing all around. And for tonight, again, thank you for watching here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We'll see you tomorrow night as the trucks for the Full Send get themselves ramped up and ready for more action. We'll see you then, and have a good rest of your evening.